Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 6 Things That We Learned from Sutton United 2, Bradford City 1. If you do go on to enjoy today's episode, please make sure to drop a like on there for us. If you could try to 80 likes on today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are on the road to 8,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so and it does massively help out. Get a comment in as well down in the comment section down below. Let us know down below your thoughts on our 6 talking points from today's video. I'm once again joined by Frank, and unfortunately it's not going to be a very positive episode. We had a couple of weeks where we thought we'd finally turned a corner. Bradford City were on a roll, and now back-to-back defeats. One against a team who hadn't won in 9, and yesterday we lost to a team who were bottom of the league. So it's not a great time to be at Bradford City once more. There's a lot of controversy again on social media. It looks like there's finally going to be protests against Stefan Rupp. And before we get into the 6 green boxes, Frank, I'll just let you have your initial thoughts on the whole protest thing and what is apparently going to happen, with the boycotts for these next 2 cup matches, and then what is apparently going to happen for the Barrow match when we're back in the league.
Yeah, I think it's kind of poorly planned, although I'm finally happy that there is some sort of action being taken. The initial protest is the Barrow game, as opposed to the boycotts which occur on the Tuesday night, which is maybe tomorrow as it goes out. We host Man City in the Papa John's or something like that in the League Cup anyway, and fans are planning to boycott that game and not go to the games as it doesn't affect the league stuff, and you've already purchased season tickets. So I'm going to run through what the plans are. And then on Saturday, I believe we play Wycombe Wanderers at home, and fans are planning to boycott that as well. Considering all the season tickets have already been purchased, it would kind of be pointless not to turn up to the games, because obviously we still want to support the players. It's just the fans behind, it's the stuff behind the scenes that we're complaining about. So if you don't purchase tickets for the FA Cup games, that's how we can get a message through. And then for the Barrow game, I don't necessarily agree with how it's been planned, as the fixture falls on Remembrance Sunday, and it starts off at the Hall, which is kind of going to be a bit of a, I'm not sure how you call it, like a centre where it's going to be celebrated and remembered on that Sunday over the course of the weekend. So I think that's probably poorly planned. Obviously, it's still in discussion, so I'd imagine that's going to get brought up when you look at the logistics of it. But I'm happy to see changes finally being made, and I hope it's a significant one, because I've got on Facebook and it's quite alarming considering the kind of percentage of people that aren't backing this. And it got posted on Facebook and it was ridiculed in the comments, who's done this and whatnot. And I'm starting to feel a bit dejected about it. I posted on Twitter about it, and I'm really confused as to why it's not being backed. And I'm all for freedom of speech and stuff, and fans having their opinions, but all we're wanting is to better the club and to move in the right direction. I just don't understand why fans wouldn't want to get behind that. It's not like we're destroying the stadium. It's not like we're causing harm. It's quite peaceful protest. It's a march. It's outside the stadium. It's not inside the stadium. And it doesn't, harm anything really. And I think it's something that we can definitely get behind, and we can all take part in it. Simple walk to the stadium. If you started your route and you just walk straight down to the stadium, it's what you'd be doing anyway on a match day. You'd probably be walking down to the stadium, and there's no reason that you shouldn't be going down there and voicing your opinion. I think it's much needed. I'm surprised it's taken this long, to be fair. This has been an issue which we've seen for a long, long time. We've continuously regressed over the past few seasons, and I'm surprised it's taken this long, but I'm happy that it's done, and I hope it's meaningful and doesn't fizzle out, and it's someone behind that account who's really going to take it seriously and be hands-on about it and make sure that things are changed and things do happen, and encourage people to get involved, really.
Yeah, I think the thing with protests, if say on the first protest or whatever, say only 5 people turn up and then they just give up, it's like, firstly, all the people that were saying that they were Rupp out themselves and have been saying all sorts on social media, they should have definitely been there. But I just hope it's not something where, if it's not well supported, that it suddenly then stops. I think it's something that needs to happen. I don't think Rupp is a horrible, nasty person like Eddie Mrahich was. I just think because he's so disinterested, we just need change from top to bottom. And At the top is unfortunately Stefan Rupp. You know, we've seen in the TNA, we get a number of inquiries every single month and they're turned down because Rupp apparently wants 8 or 10 million, which is just absolutely ludicrous for a League Two club who doesn't really own anything, if we're honest. But away from the protests, we'll get into our first box of the day. We've gone with the green box for Jamie Walker, one of the few standouts from the game, in my opinion. Obviously, back in the team, missed the Tuesday night game against MK Dons through suspension, and I thought he really influenced it well. There wasn't many players who could really come away from that game with any real credit, but I certainly thought Walker was one of them. I personally have been someone who's been asking for more from Jamie Walker in terms of goals and assists, but when we're not really getting that from anyone at the moment, the least you can ask for is nice link-up play, which I thought he certainly brought to the side and was unlucky on a few occasions, really. He was the only real person who was demanding the ball and then looking to play forwards. You know, every time Osadibe got the ball, he was pelling it a bit forwards and probably giving it away. Odour, when he gets the ball, we'll get onto him in a minute, just passes it backwards every single time. Neither of them want to take on a man. Cook is a little bit isolated up front as well. Again, we'll get onto him later on in the video. But Walker, for me, was someone who was trying throughout the whole game to really have a positive influence on there. And it's something that I've been critical of him for in really his whole time at Bradford City, and not being influential enough on the game and going missing, but I certainly don't think he did that yesterday, and that's why I've had to go with the green box to him. And I just hope we see a little bit more from Jamie Walker on a consistent basis, because we all know he's a very talented player. Obviously, he has struggled with injuries throughout his whole career, really, and most recently at Bradford City, but he's a quality player, and we just need to see him bring it out on a much more consistent basis.
Yeah, he first came to the club on loan from Hearts, and it was such a breath of fresh air. He came in and really, really did well. I thought he was really excited on the ball, and he taxed defenders. And he's sort of been in a decline recently. There's been lots of injuries, and fans are starting to get a bit annoyed with it. Obviously, it's nothing down to him. It's not his fault, and there's definitely a player in there, but he's missing a lot of crucial games. And for someone who's probably one of the most highest paid players at the club, it will get frustrating, and we don't have an endless pot of money that we can spend on players that aren't going to be playing consistently. And something else that has been discussed is his kind of contribution in the game. He's not really scored many goals for Bradford City, and for a position like a number 10 at a club that has ambitions to be in higher divisions, it's not exactly a fantastic ratio when you look at Jamie Walker's stats. But if you look at his performances, I think he does make things happen, regardless of his shot conversion and stuff like that. He makes things happen. He has a lot of shots and a lot of chances per game. And while he always, don't end up in the back of the net, it sparks stuff. It sparks confidence throughout the game. And once, urges the players on to go get a goal, for the miss that was made up. And yeah, I think he is a good player. There's definitely a player in there, and we've definitely seen it. We probably missed him at MK Dons Tuesday night, a player that could run at that defence and make stuff happen. I think him and Bobby Poynton would have been fantastic on Tuesday. How well Bobby Poynton played, and with Walker running through the middle, I think that definitely would have worked out best, as Andy Cook wasn't really winning much aerially, and the centre backs were kind of bullying the front line. I would like to see more from Jamie Walker in terms of statistics, but I think when you look at his overall performance, he does bring a lot to Bradford City. And he has a lot of pressure on his shoulders, like a lot of players in this squad. He is considered a senior member of the team, and he was brought in from, he's got a good pedigree. He's done really well in the Scottish Premiership, and he's come in to deliver. And while he's not really done that, he's given us some fantastic memories. He scored some really important goals. The playoff semi-final goal in the first leg at Carlisle springs to mind. But yeah, I'd like to see more from Jamie Walker, but it's a positive performance, and hopefully we can see more of that in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I really hope he just builds on it now when we see that consistent side to Jamie Walker a lot more. We'll move on then to box number 2. I've gone with a red box for Clark Odour. Now, obviously, he started out the season very well. Then he had an injury or illness. I'm pretty sure it was an injury. He's had a couple of breaks due to international duty. And it's just been a very stop-start to the season so far for Clark Odour. Back in the side, I think his first start in a number of weeks now, if I'm right. And he just did nothing. And we've seen it a few times now where he just does a whole lot of nothing. Come deep, get the ball. And every single time it's a backwards pass. He never takes on his man. He's clearly a very good, skillful, technical player. But he never shows it, or he'll come drop deep and he ends up playing as like a holding midfielder, and then Halliday's having to bomb on and play right wing. And as good as Halliday is going forward, it's not his natural position to be playing as an overlapping right winger. It just didn't really make sense. I don't know if that was a tactical thing, or it's just Clark Odour dropping deep to get on the ball. But it's all well and good him dropping deep and getting on the ball, but then if he's not looking to play forward, he's not looking to run forward, what's the point? You might as well just stay out the way and be an option out wide, like what Osadebe is. And I know Osadebe gives the ball away quite a lot, but at least he's in a high advanced area when he does lose it. Odour, for me, just doesn't take enough risk, and I think that was something that the Kenya manager said about Clark Odour. Obviously, he got subbed on in the game and then subbed off again because he just doesn't influence the game in the way that you would like. You know, his goal for Bradford City was very jammy, to say the least. And I just think, for me personally, Odour needs to just do a little bit more. Like we've been critical of from Walker so far this season, but Walker was a little bit more anonymous. Odour wasn't exactly anonymous. He just didn't look to get on the ball and really influence in a way that you want your attacking players to. You know, I think like when players like point and get the ball, they might play it backwards, but then they look to get it back straight away and they play 1-2 with Walker or like a Gilead or even a Halliday. You know, Point has some really good link-up play, and I was surprised to see Poynton dropped, if I'm honest, but with the amount of football that he's played recently, I could kind of understand it. You know, you don't certainly want to burn him out. I don't think he had a great impact on the game. You know, I think it was his man who scored the second goal, but at the end of the day, Poynton's like 5'5", so I'm not really going to blame him for losing a header too much. But Odour, for me, did not impact the game in any sort of way. He never ever properly challenges for an aerial duel. He always jumps before it, and that is something that really does frustrate me. And yeah, it was a disappointing display from Clark Odour, so I've had to go with the red box.
Yeah, I'll touch on the aerial stuff when I do it. I think as footballers, sometimes we are guilty of it where we go up for a header and, you know, just to act like you've gone up for it just for the sake of it. But, you know, it doesn't really make a genuine attempt to try and get the ball. It's a weird predicament because when he was initially brought in, Stephen obviously identified him as a target. Didn't have a great CV at Barnsley, scored a goal that kept them in the Championship, I believe, against Brentford in the COVID times. And he was initially brought in as a left wing back and then stated he wants to play further up the field, like in a number 10 or on the wing, but we see him constantly dropping back. So I'm not really sure if it's just a left wing back mindset or if he wants to push forward, or I'm not really sure what the plan is, but he doesn't really seem to do much as an attacker. And I wonder if he's probably best suited to a defensive position, although we've not really seen him play there. So it's definitely interesting when he was brought in as a left wing back. And I was surprised not to see him being tested out in pre-season there, really. He's always really come on in an attacking position. It's not like an Alex Gilead where you might come off for a right back or, you know, he'll come in a different position. He's not really been brought on as a left wing back at all, considering that's one of his positions that he can play. And I don't think he offers much at all, really. I think the first month or two of the season, or first opening games, if you will, he looked really exciting on the ball. He even got himself a goal while it wasn't the greatest, you know, of finishes. It definitely isn't a Puskas Award winner, but, you know, he definitely deserved his goal regardless of the finish. And we've seen it kind of drop off a bit. And I think that's what happens to some players at Bradford City. They'll get a bit complacent and understand if the team's not doing well, then they'll get opportunities. And I feel like he was kind of brought into the Sutton United game just for the sake of it. You had plenty of better options off the bench. Ray Tulloch, Adam Wilson, they could have slotted in that. And I just wonder why they weren't starting ahead of him. Clark Odour, unless there's something happening in training, and I don't believe he warranted a start over Adam Wilson, who looked fantastic in the Wrexham game. And you know, he looks pretty good coming off the bench and starting. I don't really recall a bad game apart from Wimbledon in the first half. And, you know, it kind of begs the question, is Kevin McDonald kind of losing a little bit of care? Is he a bit, you know, careless in his kind of decision making? Well, I don't agree Poynton should have started. You know, I was disappointed to see him dropped and stuff like that because obviously he's 19, so I kind of understand why he wasn't playing, but I'm not really sure why Adam Wilson and Ray Tulloch was benched. It didn't really make sense to me. It's another poor tactical decision for a number of things that Kevin McDonald's got wrong since Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, and it just overall, he did make some baffling decisions, did McDonald, and we'll get onto him later on in the video. But we'll move on then to box number 3. It's a yellow box for Andy Cook. Now, where do you even start with Andy Cook's performance? Obviously, back on the score sheet once more, his 6th goal of the season. Great ball in for Clark Odour, who did get the assist for that, and a brilliant header from Andy Cook. He had a number of other chances in the game, could have certainly on another day had another 4 or 5, but great to see him back on the score sheet. Like I say, he's 6th for the season, and the reason why it's yellow is because obviously it's great to see him scoring a goal. He's still, without a doubt, our biggest goal threat and one of our only real goal threats, while Alex Patterson is currently out with injury, which is disappointing considering we meant to have fixed that in the summer because we knew Cook wasn't going to get 39 goal contributions like what he did last year. But even though he looks, to me, a lot he looks a lot heavier this year than what he was last season. And I think that's because last year he was number 2 and he had to really compete to getting over Vidal Oliver. With Oliver being out injured, Cook knew he was probably going to be the starting man this season. And I think that's why he's potentially put on a little bit of weight now. Andy Cook tweeted last night and pretty much instantly deleted his tweet at 20 past midnight saying that he was sick of all the talk. Now, I don't know what that's referring to, but it obviously immediately got deleted. Someone did actually grab a screenshot of it, and I do feel a little bit sorry for Andy Cook. Now, his overall playing the game again was pretty poor. He didn't really offer all too much apart from the goal. But if he wants to offer nothing all season and score a goal every game, I have absolutely no complaints with that. But I just don't know what the solution is for Andy Cook. I'm not going to say it's a red because I certainly don't think it was. He scored the goal and he's still our only goal threat. And I think we should have identified some better options in the summer. Tyler Smith, for me, a 3-year deal looks absolutely crazy. He never, ever looks like scoring. And I know he's not really getting many starts and opportunities, but I mean, when he played in that Grimsby game, he had a couple of opportunities where he just rushed them, and I think he certainly needs to be finishing a few of them. You know, Cook knows at the moment he's got no real competition with Oliver out injured, Derbyshire on the coaching side of things, and Tyler Smith just not offering really all too much on a completely different type. But Andy Cook, for me, I'm going to go with a yellow box.
Yeah, it's just, you know, when I touch on Tyler Smith as well, you know, whilst we're still on it, and with some players like Ash Taylor, for example, he was not bad at Wrexham, but for Tyler Smith, I just can't name a game where he's played well at all. You could probably do the Wrexham one in the Cup, but it's kind of a free hit, really. He's been really, really poor, and the 3 deal looks ludicrous. I mean, you could even argue who was at fault for Sutton United's winner as well yesterday. On his side, didn't go out attack the man. Clay had multiple hours, really, on that right-hand side. Got the ball in and beat him and nodded it home for Sutton's winner. And, you know, he was at fault for that goal, and he kind of seems like a waste of a roster spot and a bit kind of waste on the bench. To be honest, and it is, you know, you look at Stephen Gent again, who's brought in a lack of attacking threat this year. And with Andy Cook, let's just go back onto him. I thought it was quite anonymous, that game. First half, he was dross, and he seems to be playing with some sort of knee strap on that I've noticed recently. And I think he might be injured, but there's just no real way that you can drop him. There's not many players that can come in. So I wonder if he's kind of forcing it to play just so he can try and keep his spot, or if there's an underlying thing, or he's playing with it just for safety. I'm not really sure, but he's been really, really poor, and he's looked injured when he's been playing, but he has got a goal. And you look at when he scored, and about a minute, 2 minutes after, he cracked a volley off the bar, and it just goes to show that if Andy Cook is in his stride, he will really play well. And I think I think every player is confidence-based player. Like, you'll play well when you're confident, but I think Andy Cook's probably impacts from that the most in the Bradford squad when the team's doing well and he's having a good game and he's fired up and the defence are having a good game and he can create a lot of chances. You'll see a confident, mean, lean Andy Cook, but when it's not going well for the squad and when there's a bit of uncertainty in and around the club and in the performances and with the chances he's missed and stuff like that, I think you'll see a worse side of Andy Cook, one that we see sometimes throughout the season. And it's definitely been a bit of a poor patch for Andy Cook. He's not really experienced this at Bradford City. Despite us not getting promoted, he's all his experience of success. He came in on loan from Mansfield, scored a goal every 2 games, and then next season played really well. And, you know, he got the golden boot the next. And we almost got promoted, 40 goal contributions nearly in the league. And, you know, everything was going well. All it was missing was the promotion. Now everything seems to be missing from Andy Cook's game. Whilst he is our top scorer with 6 goals and he's been that poor, it just goes to show how important he is to the team, despite playing so poor. And I just hope we see the better Andy Cook in the near future, because without him, we don't really have any goal threat, not just in the attack, but the strikers either.
Yeah, I just were searching for some stats here. Someone tweeted earlier today about a comparison between Cook's stats from last season to this season. After 16 league games last season, he scored 10 goals. This season, he scored 6. Last season, though, he only averaged 58 minutes per game in his first 16 games. This year, he's averaged 86. Last year, after 16 games, he'd played 1 full match. This year, he's played 11. And then last season, he missed no games through injury in his first 16 games. This year, he's missed 3. So I think the fact that we're having to make him play so much more is certainly hindering him. You know, it's a big contributing factor. And the fact that Oliver isn't fit is so frustrating. And we knew this in the summer. He picked up this groin injury, whatever it was, in one of the first days of the summer. So why did we not go out and address that? Why did we not go and get someone in on loan? Someone like, I don't even know, like a Josh Andrews who's gone to Accrington Stanley on loan from Birmingham. Someone like that, a big physical target man. But instead we got Daniel Ugoke when we had 4 other right backs already at the football club. Or we've got 17,000 wingers in. It just doesn't even make sense. Like, why have we wasted a loan spot on someone like Chisholm Afoka, who looks absolutely awful in the games that he has played and never looks like he's ever going to get in the matchday squad anymore? I mean, he looks on par with Darryl Costello at this moment in time, but we'll move on then to box number 4, and unfortunately, it's another red box for Harry Lewis. I think they had 2 shots on target yesterday. Their first goal, he gets beaten at the near post once more. And the second one, I think he should save that one as well. It's a header, which is slow. And I think his positioning originally is pretty poor. It's not exactly in the corner, or certainly doesn't look that from the Eiffel or angle. And yeah, just really, really disappointing again from Harry Lewis. And I know, again, you've got to blame other factors because we should stop the cross. We shouldn't allow a free header for the second goal. I mean, the first goal, right out, just falls over his own feet. And then suddenly it's one ball in behind and Smallwood's chasing after their fast winger. I don't really understand how we've allowed that to happen, but Lewis getting beat at his near post is just not good enough. And I absolutely hate having to come here and criticise Harry Lewis because I absolutely love the man. He's one of my favourite players to ever play for Bradford City, but he's letting us down, unfortunately, at the moment. And again, he's not the only one. There could have been another 10 red boxes in this video, but Lewis is someone who we have to highlight because we know he's such a talented player, but he's just not showing it at this moment in time. And I saw someone, again, mention it today about the Coffee Club having pretty much the whole thing ripped apart from last season. No Banks, no Jake Young, no Ryan East, etc. And now it's just him on his own. And obviously there was McDonald, and then he's gone into being a caretaker player manager, so he's not there anymore. And I think it's certainly something that, well, it might not seem that big of a deal when you've got your really close friends, and then there you go, and you've not got close friends, you've just got friends. I mean, this is just from the outside looking in, but I certainly think it will have an impact on his game and all that sort of stuff. And I'm just disappointed with Harry Lewis at the moment because, like I said, he's so talented. He's such a brilliant goalkeeper. We saw it against MK Dons. He made some unbelievable saves, but he's just making a few too many mistakes at this moment in time, and we are getting punished for it, and it is really unfortunate. And I'm not saying that these mistakes were the worst in the world. You know, he's certainly made a lot worse this season, but I just think he should again be doing better with both goals. And maybe because he set the standard so high for himself from last season, maybe I'm being a little bit overcritical. You have to let me know down in the comment section down below. But yeah, I was disappointed again with Harry Lewis yesterday.
Yeah, it's another poor performance, and you know, with that coffee club situation, you know, in real life, if you had mates that lived in your street and they all moved away, you know, your head's going to drop and you're going to be, you know, disappointed. It might affect personal life, like in your school and stuff. And I think that's kind of happened with Harry Lewis. He's, you know, we've conceded 21 goals in the league this season. We conceded 43 last year in the league, and we've played 16 games and we've almost conceded half of what we did last year. So that statistically proves that Harry Lewis has had a poor season. But if you look in the games as well, it you know, gets even worse. He's at fault for both goals. You know, obviously, like I touched on earlier with Tyler Smith, you know, he was kind of at fault for that goal, but it's really poor goalkeeping. Beat at your near post yet again by a side that have won twice or 3 times in the last 25 or something like that. And then Sutton, again, come down the right. It's a throw in the box. We don't deal with it. Gets cleared away. And then it falls to them. They've got so much time. He cuts inside. Clay is so free on the right-hand side, whips it in. And the ball seemed to just float in the air for an age. And it drops to Beautyman. And the ball, once again, seems to go in slow motion in the back of the net. Harry Lewis can't get there quick enough. And, you know, last season, that's a routine save. It's in his hands. You know, doesn't have to dive for that. But I think just the performance has been significantly worse than they were last year. I think we've got to get a number 2 in, and obviously we're edging towards that kind of January period now. I think we probably do need to use that free agent spot up because I don't really know where else we'd use it. I think we do need to get a goalkeeper in, maybe not to play, but just to push him as fast as we can. Or I think maybe even the solution is recall Jake Young. I think that needs to be something in. Obviously, not only is he a striking option, but he's a good friend of Harry Lewis. It boosts confidence. You know, there's a player who's doing really well. It boosts the morale, and you know, he gets on the score sheet. Andy Cook starts playing better as well. I think it works for all parties except Swindon. To be fair, you know, he scored again on Tuesday night or on Saturday against MK Dons. Oh, well, we played MK Dons on Tuesday, so that wouldn't happen. But on Saturday he scored instantly after coming off the bench against MK Dons, and he continues that fantastic form. I think he's got 13 games, 10 goals, 4 assists, or something along them lines. I really hope we can see the Harry Lewis that we saw last year. He seems to be a talking point on a lot of the episodes that we're doing recently, and we talked about this yesterday as well. Harry Lewis's Instagram has seemed to have vanished. I'm not sure if this is a recent thing, but I certainly do think it is a recent thing. I seem to remember going on his Instagram not that long ago, and now it seems to have gone. And we see this with a lot of players sometimes where, even for Ryan Sparks, his social media got taken down, and sometimes players take a step away. And I think someone needs to put an arm around Harry Lewis and kind of comfort him. It's not been a difficult time, not just for the team, but for Harry Lewis in particular, after having such a fantastic season and having all the fans love you, to slipping down the league and putting in a performance virtually every week. Now, it can't be amazing for him to be experiencing. I think once players start coming back in from loan, Ryan East, I believe he scored at the weekend, so there's a chance that he might get recalled back after having a decent spell at Rochdale, and obviously the prospect of Jake Young coming back in January. I think we've got to preserve our judgment till January, give him a chance. We can't, forget how good he was last year as well. So I think we should need to give him a bit of time, although I am starting to lose patience with Harry Lewis. There's not much we can do about it. He's the only goalkeeper. Heath Richardson's gone out on loan. I don't trust Colin Doyle. All we can do really is just hope things get better, because I can't see us bringing in a goalkeeper. So we're just going to have to put up with it, and hopefully the defence and Harry Lewis get back into shape, and the whole team really needs to get back to the best.
Yeah, I think the thing with the loan players, or the players currently out on loan, I think they probably will come back in January. I think especially Ryan East, and definitely Jake Young has to come back. I mean, as much as he had some inconsistent performances at Swindon, the man scores goals. If you play him as a striker, he's going to score goals. Don't be playing him as a left attacking midfielder, because you want to ask Andy Cook to play as left attacking midfielder. And now at the moment, we're trying to do it with Tyler Smith, and it doesn't really work. And I do feel a little bit sorry for Tyler Smith from that point of view. Ryan East as well, having a really good loan spell with Rochdale. A lot of their fans love him and want him to stay all season. But who would you rather have in central midfield? Would you rather have Ryan East, or would you rather have Daniel Ugoke? It just doesn't really make sense. Who would you rather have up front? Would you rather have Chisholm Afoka? Would you rather have Jake Young? Would you rather have Matt Derbyshire, or would you rather have Jake Young? Like, some of the decisions that Hughes made in the summer were just absolutely criminal. And I think with obviously Derbyshire staying and Young leaving, it shows that Hughes definitely had his favourites, and he was much more interested in letting his mates just get one last payday rather than really the results of Bradford City. But we'll move on then to our penultimate box. It's a yellow box for Kevin McDonald. Now, I don't think he got it too wrong. I think some of the decisions, though, were slightly baffling. The first half was very poor, really, really poor. I was frustrated with the first half. But the second half, he got a reaction out of the team. And I don't think you get a reaction out of the team by being a passive manager. And I think he did well to do that. We were on top for large spells that second half. And I think a draw would have been a fair result. But if anyone deserved to win it, I'd say we had certainly the better chances, in my opinion. And that's why it's not a red box. But some of the decisions were baffling. Why did Osadibe start? Why was Poynton dropped? Like I say, I think it was probably because of the amount of football that he's played recently, but there's been a number of players who played much more. Obviously, no Jonathan Tompkinson again involved in the matchday squad. Why did Ugoke come on for Halliday in the last 10 minutes? There were some really, really baffling decisions, in my opinion, but I do feel sorry for him, because he's a player who's been chucked into the deep end to be answering some really, really hard questions at this moment in time. And he's basically being asked, what is the future of Bradford City? And I do not blame the reporters like Jamie Rayner, Simon Parker, etc., for asking these questions, because these are the questions that need to be asked. But should they be being asked to Kevin McDonald, or should they be being asked to the higher ups at Bradford City? Ryan Sparks did an article behind a paywall for The Athletic, but I don't know if people like Jamie Rayner and Simon Parker have approached Ryan Sparks for an update, but every other club seems to be providing updates on what's going on with their managerial situations, and we just haven't done that. Hughes was sacked nearly a month ago now, and we've not had a single update. The strong rumours, according to Alan Nixon, that Dean Holden is in the advanced talks now to become next Bradford City manager. For me personally, it's not an inspiring appointment whatsoever, but we just need something from the club. McDonald should not be having to be the one to be facing these questions. It should not be him at all. It should be the higher ups at Bradford City. Someone needs to come out and say something. Now, there's been rumours of a takeover, and obviously if the takeover does go through, then you want to wait and see about what they want to do. They might want to change the board, they might want to get a different manager in. So it's all well and good if we appoint a manager now, we have a takeover, and then in a month's time they want to change manager again. So that I think would be a little bit silly. But I think the takeover rumours, where they've come from, just seem like someone's just made something up, if I'm honest. But back onto McDonald, I've gone with the yellow box. I feel sorry for him being put in this position, but some of his decisions yesterday were certainly baffling.
Um, at the end of the day, he's not an established manager. You know, he hasn't really got that prowess as a manager, and he doesn't really have a kind of system or a philosophy. So there isn't really an idea on what you're going to see from Kevin McDonald in terms of a managerial perspective. And you know, with the ownership kind of change and the takeover rumours, it kind of does make sense if this is what's happening with the club in terms of where we're not getting any answers. And Ryan Sparks is doing, yeah, I'll touch on that actually. Ryan Sparks doing a kind of an article behind the paywall with the Athletic. I'm not really sure why the Athletic are getting first priority over season ticket holders and supporters that want answers and demand answers about the future of this football club. And then going back on to the kind of silence that we've heard, you know, I posted about it today. Grimsby, they sacked Paul Hurst yesterday, and the club have come out saying, we're currently interviewing candidates, we're going to keep you updated every step of the way. And we've just had none of that from Bradford City. You know, we've had more kind of like conversations and like information from the bookies than we have the club, and that says it all about kind of the situation at Bradford City. And maybe this quietness is kind of shadowing what's going to happen in the future. There possibly could be a takeover happening. I've read it on a forum, and apparently there's 2 American consortiums and 1 consortium that currently have a stake in a top flight team in the Netherlands. So, you know, it could all be waffly at the end of the day, but, you know, I'm going to go back into Kevin McDonald. You know, he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's bought the club a lot of time, and I think regardless of where he ends up, if he gets the job permanently, which I definitely don't agree with, I think he's out of his depth. But he has got a lot. I think the whole club really have a lot for him to thank for, because he's bought them a lot of time to do whatever they're doing behind the scenes, and he's kind of got us back into a stable position. Although we are 16th, he's kind of stabilised it, and the fans aren't as frustrated as we were kind of when Hughes was still here. I think everyone's kind of at ease, if you will, at the moment. But I think time is definitely running out now, not just for Kevin McDonald, but for the club, really. They've got to make an appointment. I'm surprised one hasn't been made already. We sat here at 20 to 10 on a Sunday, and we still don't have a manager, and there's been absolutely, well, just deafening silence from the club in terms of, you know, communication with the fans. And I think overall, I just feel disconnected with everything that's going on at the moment. Why are season ticket holders not being told about what's going on behind the scenes? We deserve to know as much as anyone else does. And, you know, I'm not expecting them to say, oh, yeah, we're going to be getting Dean Holden in, everyone. I'm going to offer him this amount of money, and this is how many years he's going to get, and these are the pay incentives and stuff. We're not asking for that. We're just asking, you know, is there going to be an appointment coming in the next week? Or are we narrowing it down? Are we looking at possibly an ownership change? Is things happening behind the scenes? It's just little details, and I think we'd appreciate that a lot as a fan base if we kind of got just the kind of I don't really know what to say about it, really. Just the kind of simple things about what's going on behind the scenes, and we're just not getting anything, and it's really, really disconnecting as a fan when you want to know what's going on and you're respectful of how it is. You're a season ticket holder, you pay the money, you go home and away, and we're kind of being treated as outsiders, really. It's disappointing, and I think we do need an appointment very, very soon. I think one on Monday morning would be ideal, because then he has the Tuesday night game to prepare for and to kind of assess the squad. It's kind of a free hit, and you've got another free hit technically on Saturday, although it is a little bit more at stake at Wycombe Wanderers in the FA Cup. So yeah, I think definitely an appointment needs to be made first thing Monday morning, if not Tuesday morning, or just something along them lines, because we are slowly losing a bit of stability that Kevin McDonald has brought in, and it needs to kind of be addressed quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say at this moment in time. I'm just so frustrated being a Bradford City fan, and we'll move on then to box number 6. It's just a red box for Bradford City. I'm just fed up. I don't even know what to say anymore. You know, it's so depressing having to go on here, and it feels like every 3 or 4 weeks we're having to give out a number of red boxes, and we're criticising X, Y, and Z, and we're back onto the ownership and Ryan Sparks and all these sort of things. We're talking about the same things over and over again, and Stephen Gent and all that sort of stuff. And I just actually don't know what the solution is for Bradford City. I think it's clear that change needs to be made. I think there needs to be much better communication from the football club. You know, considering Ryan Sparks was someone who was meant to be he used to be the head of communications at Bradford City. Obviously, it trickles down from him down to the media and all that sort of stuff. There's just nothing coming out of the football club, and every other club, you know, Gillingham, Grimsby, even Colchester, are putting out statements, you know, telling the fans what's going on about their managerial status and all that sort of stuff. And I think something bigger must be going on for us not to do that. I don't think in recent times that's necessarily something that we have done, but when we've changed manager, we've made an appointment almost instantly, whereas now it's been nearly a month since Hughes was sacked, and I can understand why we kept it going along for a little bit, because obviously we're winning football matches and we're playing well. But after the last 2 matches, I think an appointment clearly needs to be made, and we've seen so many good managers. The longer the time goes on, the better standard of manager is coming down more and more. There's a number of League Two clubs now looking for a new manager, and we're one of them. And at the end of the day, we might be the big fish in a small pond, but we're a bit of a moldy fish, a bit of an old fish that's going off a little bit at this moment in time. And I just think I don't actually know what I think at this moment in time. I'm just so fed up with the football club. Like, I was someone who, since 2018, the season we got relegated, I've done pretty much every game home and away, and this season I've probably nearly missed double figures, and I'm just quite happy about that, because what is the point in spending all your weekend for the majority of it? Because say you travel to Sutton, you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you don't get home till like 11 o'clock at night, and that's a full day gone. And then obviously up really early on a Sunday morning for Sunday League football. It's just like, what is the point? And it's very expensive now, is the price of football. It's just going up and up and up. You're looking at coach for a game to London between £30 and £40, and your ticket for an adult these days is between £20 and £30 for League Two football, including all your online fees that you got to pay. It's just simply not worth it to be watching League Two football. If you were going to a Portsmouth or a Derby County, something a little bit more exciting than a Forest Green or a Barrow, with all due respect, but that is the standard that we are at. That is what Bradford City is at this moment in time. And as frustrating as it is, I can't see it changing anytime soon, if I'm honest.
Yeah, if you kind of break it down, you got a man at the top, Stefan Rupp, doesn't know anything about football and is disinterested. And you got people like Ryan Sparks, who's the CEO, and while I don't agree with all the decisions he's made, he's kind of kept the club afloat in a sense. He brings in a lot of revenue for the club. But is he to blame for this kind of regression when someone's disinterested, doesn't really do anything? And Ryan Sparks is virtually the owner, the chairman, and the CEO all rolled into one. And is he to blame for the regression? I don't even know who to point fingers at. Is it Michael Collins' fault? Is it Greg Abbott's fault? Is it Baldwin's fault? Is it Gordon Gibbs' fault? I could point a finger at absolutely anyone and we wouldn't probably get an answer. And it's probably just as much Gordon Gibbs' fault as it is Greg Abbott's. And there's just so many fingers to point, and I don't even know where to begin. I feel like a lot of the times this season we are going in circles and we are kind of repeating the same thing. But definitely today, I feel like with the amount of fans that I've seen that are kind of condemning and not agreeing with the fact that we're trying to start protest against Rupp out, I think this club is never going to move forward. I think we are a definite curse, and it's only going to get worse from here. If the majority of the fan base isn't on board with what we're trying to do and trying to move the club forward, then is there any point, to be honest? I mean, I'm starting to lose interest. We've talked about not going next season and maybe buying tickets just for games as opposed to season tickets. I've taken a liking to basketball. I could easily go watch Bradford Dragons every week, and I could watch so many different sports. I could go watch just anything really other than football. I'm starting to lose interest in it altogether, really. I don't even like any sports, really. I'm excited for the darts to start in December, if that's something anyone's interested in. Boxing's corrupt. I don't even like that either. Sports is just a shambles at the moment altogether, and Bradford City is definitely piling on the misery. I don't know who to blame anymore. Ryan Sparks, he's out of his depth, really. As opposed to a CEO, I think he's absolutely underqualified and should not be doing that job. But in a marketing role, I think he'd be absolutely unbelievable. And he's demonstrated that he's a good marketer. He continues to get sponsorships in. The Seabrooks one, as of late, is a recent one. And it's bringing money into the club that simply Stefan Rupp isn't supplying. And, I have to take my hat off to him for that. And I think, Stefan Rupp's not an evil person on purpose. He was kind of sold a dream by Adam Rajich, and he's kind of in a predicament where he doesn't know what to do. And when you don't know football and you've got no one to advise you, you can't really make appointments to a CEO because you don't know what it takes to be a football CEO. He's kind of trapped, and you probably hears rumours about clubs being sold for X amount of money and thinks, yeah, I can sell Bradford City for that, because we've got a big stadium. But because he's so disinterested, he doesn't know what's actually going on. Does he know season ticket sales are kind of dropping? Does he know that we don't own the stadium? Does he know that we don't own the training ground? I feel like we're going in circles every week, and it's quite concerning actually. And the fact that it's going under the radar and nothing's really been done about it says it all. I'm getting a bit scared because fans are kind of seeing what's going on and they're not looking at the bigger picture here. We're regressing year upon year. We are, what, 4, 5, 6 places off the relegation zone. And while teams, we probably aren't going to get relegated because of how bad some teams are, but we're slipping towards that area. And it could get definitely a real prospect if we don't do something about it. There's a lack of communication with the club, a lack of interest from the owner, and a lack of real ability in the squad. We continue to regress. And while I don't think money is everything, we just don't have an appropriate model. You look at Luton, we were playing them in Sky Bet League 1 and League 2 not long ago, and they're in the Premier League, and we're slowly trickling towards the conference. I just don't know anymore. We don't really seem to have a route, a destination, plan, anything of the above, and it is very concerning now. And I think, obviously, the next week doesn't matter on the field because it is both cup competitions that we are taking part in, but we've got to make stuff off the field work next week, especially. I think we've got to take this week to kind of step and look behind the scenes and kind of work on the club in that kind of sense, because it's very concerning and I don't know where we're going to go from here.
I mean, we joke about it and we say stuff about, going to the National League and we're going on a National League tour and all this sort of stuff, but it's not too far away. It nearly happened to us a couple of years ago. Big thank you to Truman and Sellers for doing a brilliant job and steering us away from that. But I don't think it's much of a coincidence that under this current ownership and the board of directors, whoever it may be, that we just don't seem to be progressing. Last season we had 2 absolutely outstanding footballers in Andy Cook and Harry Lewis, and ultimately we finished in the playoffs and massively failed. And apart from that, every season in League 2 has just been absolutely awful. And you look at Ryan Sparks' qualifications and how he actually found himself in the CEO role. It's like if you were at Tesco's and you'd been there for a few weeks and you were the social media manager or you were stacking shelves and suddenly you are the CEO of Tesco and you're the one making the big decisions every single week. Like, it's just crazy to think no other football club would do that without someone like a director of football, or like, I just can't actually believe it. And you look at, he's the one who's making these appointments, and the amount of things that he said that have just come back to bite him. The mediocrity quote is the main one. Then you've got the leaner and meaner squad from the start of the season, and someone said we're fatter and worse. I can't remember what the exact thing was, but we're definitely not leaner and meaner. We're a lot worse than where we were last season. I think the standard of this team is just not great. There's not a lot of versatility. There's not enough quality in that side. There's probably 6 players in the entire squad who would make it in League One clubs. And actually, most recently as well, in that article with The Athletic, he said that some players would see themselves as League One standard, if not higher. Who on earth in our squad sees themselves as a Championship standard player? Because they can be the first ones out the door. I would maybe accept 2, potentially 3 as League One quality. The rest of them are bang average League 2 players who might have a good game every now and again. Like, you cannot come out and say that some of these players are Championship standard or they think they're Championship standard when we sit 16th in Sky Bet League 2 after 16 football matches. That's just absolutely criminal to say. And he just doesn't help himself. Times like this is when he should be communicating with the fans, telling us about what's going on with the manager, not going around and telling people that you think that some of these players that we've got think that they're Championship standard. Like, that is just absolutely ludicrous. I mean, it wasn't even Championship standards. He said, if not higher. So he might think in his head that some of these players probably think they're Premier League players. And it wouldn't even surprise me, because there's some of the things that come out of that man's mouth. Like, a lot of it is just for sound bites and all that sort of stuff. He's too busy talking about Wrexham and the fact that we're 16th in League 2 and he's on about Wrexham. It just doesn't sit right with me. And I've been someone who's probably defended Sparks throughout this season, but you just look at it and there's so many things that are now building up against him, and his background and where he's come from. I personally think that he just needs to move on. He's never going to resign. I'm sure he's sitting pretty, probably taking home a nice healthy wage because he's the CEO, and that is quite a hard job to do, and he's clearly struggling at that when you look at our performances on the pitch. And I'm just so frustrated and disappointed with the football club at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've touched on kind of all the bases that in terms of everything, and Yeah, Ryan Sparks. I think he was something to do with the, like Bradford Bulls and stuff like that. And just like rugby and football, just two completely different sports in terms of not just even the rules of it, but financial wise. You'll probably get transfer fees in League Two that are bigger than some of the wages per year and transfer fees in the Super League in rugby. There's just so much diversity in that, and I'm so lost for words at this point. I really don't know what to do. When all the money's being supplied by the fans and we are single-handedly keeping this club afloat at the moment, we're just not getting anything. And maybe this is why Ryan Sparks isn't coming out and saying anything, because it's going to get used as a quote. He'll end up saying, yeah, we'll have a manager next week and we'll never have a manager at this club again. It'll be Kevin McDonald until he retires from management. I think it's unfair in Kevin McDonald as well to be kind of left in this caretaker manager role for so long. He needs a bit of clarity whether or not he's going to be in that position for this foreseeable future for the next week. Every time he comes out in a statement or in an interview with Jamie Rain, he says, oh, yeah, I'm all right, as told otherwise. He seems like there's not even any communication with Kevin McDonald himself, because he is the caretaker manager. I mean, he hasn't been told otherwise, but he's not really been told anything in terms of updates. He said, he doesn't even come out and say, yeah, this could be one of my last games, or yeah, I've heard we're closing on a decision in the next few days and you might be able to hear about it. There's just nothing coming through from the higher ups or anything to do with the club, and it is a huge, huge issue. And I think if we don't see anything tomorrow morning, then I'm going to start to get a lot more concerned than I am today, because I can kind of understand it over the weekend. And a lot of the time we do make appointments first thing on the weekend, after the weekend on a Monday. And I think maybe that's why we're waiting. I know a lot of betting apps have kind of taken down some of the betting, and you're not allowed to do it anymore and stuff like that. And it is looking increasingly likely, despite the reliable sources or not, it looks like it could be Dean Holden, and we've not really had a target that's looked nailed on as Dean Holden, which is very concerning. And you look at the list of candidates, they're so underwhelming. Neil Redfern, I think Danny Cowley is the only one that I'm remotely interested in, but is he going to do the job? Why would you want to come at Bradford City? It's truly a poison chalice. So many great managers, let's not get me wrong, anything wrong. Mark Hughes was a Premier League manager, and you look at Derek Adams, who's either won a domestic cup or he's been promoted with every club he's been at, and the first time he comes to Bradford City, doesn't get promoted, he gets sacked after a few months, and now he's back at Morecambe, and Morecambe in the playoffs. I think there's something wrong with the club, and we generally are poison chalice. And when from the outside looking in, if from a neutral perspective, if you're looking at Bradford City in the model, fans are starting to turn. We're 16th in League Two. We don't own the stadium, we don't own the training ground. There's not a real budget from the club. We continue to regress every year, and managers seem to be getting sacked months after getting appointed, and they're getting given 2, 3, 4-year deals. Why would you want to come in as a manager and kind of enter that unless you absolutely are desperate for a job? There's so many questions and things we could say, but I feel like we're kind of wasting our breath at this point. There's so many things that I could say, and so many things and people that I could blame, but it's just not worth our oxygen. I think it's down to the club now and everyone involved to make the right decision, and whether or not that's from an ownership perspective or a managerial or something to do with the board, something higher up needs to change, and it needs to happen quickly. Otherwise, we're going to slowly trickle into the conference, and it's not even a joke or something you're saying it's to be taken lightly. It is a genuine possibility.
One thing that I do actually want to mention that I've just thought of here is something that I've noticed a few times this season is Stephen Gent being at the home games. Now, I don't know if his title is head of recruitment or chief scout, whatever it is, but why would the man who's meant to be the main person in charge of our transfers and all that sort of stuff be at the home games scouting players we've already signed? Like, that just seems really, really stupid. I mean, you look at our summer transfer window, it's absolutely abysmal looking back on it. Alex Patterson, for me, was the only real signing who's done anything of note. And you look at someone like a Mansfield, they sign proven quality in their team. They've done it for a number of years now, and that is why their squad is filled with qualities filled with quality, whereas we give 3-year contracts to people like Tyler Smith and Clark Odour who have got a point to prove. It's like giving a 20-year-old Nathan Delfonso, a 20-year-old Tom Elliott a 3-year contract. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Why are we giving 3-year contracts out to players who aren't proven at this level or any level really, just because they're young? Like, it doesn't really make sense. Now, I've seen a lot of people giving I don't know who stick, but because Andy Cook got a 3-year deal. But for me personally, I think that was the right decision in the summer. You know, he scored 31 goals, 8 assists in there. I think the only way you were really going to make him stay was a 3-year deal and a bit of a pay rise. And I don't think he will see out them full 3 years. I think he might be gone potentially next summer, you know, not the summer coming up, the one after that. But anyway, I am going to leave it there for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and 80 likes, as I said at the start of today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are on the road to 8,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed. If you haven't already, with that post notification bell on, it's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get a comment as well down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below your thoughts on Jamie Walker, Clark Odour, Andy Cook, Harry Lewis, Kevin McDonald, Bradford City, the hierarchies. Are you rup in, rup out, sparks in, sparks out, gent in, gent out? Let me know that sort of stuff down below. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all very soon for another one. Peace.